Hello and welcome to the first Transformation Q&A of 2023. My name is Allison Grant Lounes. I am the owner of the relocation agency, Your Transformation. I am the admin of the Facebook group Americans in France that currently has just under 17,000 members. I have been the admin of that group for about it'll be 10 years this year. I have been helping people move to France either first through a blog and then through various relocation services since the end of 2013. So again, that's also going to be about 10 years. And I am so thrilled to be able to announce that as of last Monday, I now have a full-time employee. If you know anything about having a business in France, that is a very, very big deal, and I could not be more excited. Her name is Kim Mousseron. She's been working with me for the past year and a half. She started in April 2021, but just on a part-time sort of contractor basis. She was helping me with certain admin tasks for some of our clients, and I'm very excited to have her on board full-time. She's a great person. She's fun to work with. She's also from Massachusetts, so we get along very well. And she's been in France for a very long time and she knows her stuff. So I'm thrilled to have her on the team. She was the most recent guest of the Profiles in Transformation podcast. So I do encourage you to go and take a listen to that as well. I'm also the author of this book, Foolproof French Visas. This is the most recent edition, the complete 2022 edition. There will be a 2023 edition later this year that we're going to start working on very soon. There's not too many changes, but it's always good to have an updated version because there are a couple of changes every single year. Most notably, there have been major updates to the passport talent visa and applications, especially for entrepreneurs. And there have been lots of changes in the renewal procedures as well, most notably with many, many things going online. So we will make sure to get you those updates. It is with a lot of Kim's work last year that the 2022 edition was able to be so thorough and much better edited than the previous two editions, but I am looking forward to working on the 2023 edition for you. I am very happy to have all of you here today. The way this is going to work is I'm going to go through the questions that have been pre-submitted through the Google Doc. And you are welcome to also add questions into the Q&A box, but I'm going to save those actually until the end. I tend to go back and forth a little bit, but really the people who submitted their questions in advance should get them answered first. So I'm going to do that today. As we go through, I'm going to talk a little bit too about the different ways that you can potentially work with us if you want to have support and guidance in your own transformation. So what we do, and the thing that makes this unique, is we support people through the visa application process and through doing a lot of the admin work upon arrival in France. But we also, we're relatively small. We have a lot of clients that we support and have a lot of conversations with, and we're really able to guide you and coach you through the process and provide a lot of resources that support you and tell you what to expect along the way too. People come to us for the French bureaucracy knowledge and expertise that we have, but they also come to us because, one, they like us as people for our sparkling wit and charming personalities, but also just because this is something that's not easy. It's not easy to move to a new country in a new language. It's not easy to start a business, even in your home country, and especially not in another country. And so I was just having a conversation with a client right before this call, and I told her, you're doing a lot of hard things, and we're here to support you. We're here to support you. So without further ado, I am going to open up the question document. I'm doing something right now, so no, I can't. All right, there are two questions that got submitted at the end of the last Q&A through the form that were not covered in the last Q&A, so I'm going to cover those quickly first. First of all, Brian, do you recommend keeping your U.S. health insurance while living in France? How covered are you when you return to the States for a visit? That really depends on your policy and how comprehensive it is, and whether or not it will still cover you when you're in the States. And your French policy is not going to cover you when you go to the U.S. They'll cover you like at what the French rates are, which is not very high. So most of the time, what we recommend for people who are living in France, especially long term, is that they get a policy that will, like a regular travel policy. So they have their French coverage that covers them when they live here, but then when they go back to the US, they're getting a policy from like AXA or April or one of those travel policies that will cover for short trips up to 90 days in the US, because otherwise you're typically paying thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars for a healthcare policy in the US that you're only really going to use on vacation. Now, the one caveat to that is I had an inquiry today from somebody who has a child with special needs. And so one of the questions that I asked them before we're going to even begin the process of talking about working together is, what kind of care does that child need on an ongoing basis in like, and to find out what insurance policy they currently have and how that would potentially cover their child's care in the gap between when they first arrive in France and when they actually begin the process of getting covered under French healthcare. If they come with a business, they're going to potentially get registered relatively quickly into the French healthcare system. They won't have to wait the 90 days, but there's still going to be some kind of gap because there's a delay in between when you send the forms to be processed and when they actually process them and make sure that all coverage is going to be reimbursed. So in a situation like that, I would want to make sure, really sure that whoever needs the ongoing care is going to be able to have that when you arrive. All right, question number 2, Oscar. We will be moving to France in March. I'm a US citizen and my wife is French and we have our French marriage book. How long does it take to receive a visa? Would it be late to apply in December for a March visa? So you can only apply up to 90 days before you're planning on departing. So December would have been too early, but a family visa is only going to take maybe 10 days. I would say normally you should expect to have your passport back within a week of your visa appointment for that type of visa. Oscar, I live in Georgia and hold a Georgia driver's license. I will change my address to Florida for banking, etc., to my family member's address. Do you think it would be helpful to get a Florida driver's license right before I move to France? I am married with a French person and will apply for my visa before changing my address to Florida. Would it cause a problem when I apply for my driver's license in France? If your driver's license for Florida was not issued a very long time before your visa started, then you may have trouble exchanging the license. But generally speaking, we advise people, if you're going to switch your state for your driver's license before moving, then do it as early as possible. All right, Jessica, we renew annually. What do I need to get a longer term visa? I don't know what kind of visa you have, so I don't know. If you have a visitor visa, you're probably not ever going to get a multi-year card. It's going to take a long time. If you are here and you want to elaborate on what type of visa you have and what you mean, then feel free to do so. I am looking to move to France. I work remotely and have a side online business. I need to know what kind of visa I will need and how long it will take to get it. I want to move by the end of 2023. Okay, so for that, depending on the level of income, you're going to be looking at either a visa or a passport talent entrepreneur visa. Passport talent entrepreneur takes a little bit longer to get because it involves creating an actual French company. Both of those visa types are covered in here, and this is what we do. So feel free to reach out to us to talk about the type of support you can get with creating a business in France. What steps and documents do I need to have before the appointment? I am in San Francisco, California. Where do I go for an appointment near me? So you can go to the VFS global office in San Francisco. The list of documents you're going to need is in here, and obviously you'll get a copy of the document list as well when you complete the visa application online. Basically, it's going to be a business plan, financial projections, proof that your project is viable in France, and bank statements to show your financial resources and where you're going to be living when you first arrive. When we help people with that type of visa, that's what we're putting together, the business plan and the financial projections, and making sure that the business fits into the types of things that the consulate is going to be looking for, and that the purpose of the business is clear and it lines up with what is allowable and doable and what the accounting rules are for the type of business that you're going to be doing, which in most cases is going to be auto entrepreneur. If you're doing profession libérale, you probably want to start about 4 to 6 months in advance of when you want to arrive. If you want to do passport talent entrepreneur, you want to start now for the end of 2023, because once you get the business plan done and make the financial investment, there's a procedure to get your business plan pre-authorized. And once you get that certificate, it's valid for 1 year. And then that's what you're going to use to apply for the visa. Tracy, what is needed, or is it difficult to telework for an American company in France? Yes, because either the company has to be registered in France to have French employees and give you a French work contract and pay French social charges on you, which is very difficult and expensive, or you need to be an independent contractor and do what I just said for. So in that situation, you're an independent contractor, you're starting a business as a consultant, and whatever you do for telework is going to be reported as income for your auto entrepreneur business. Question 2, I keep hearing it's almost impossible to find a job in France. Is that true? It's not that it's impossible to find a job, although it is somewhat difficult to get hired. Hiring, I just finished the hiring process. I already had the person that I wanted to hire. It took about 5 months, 4 to 5 months from start to finish between when we began the process of looking at making her full-time and when we were actually able to sign the contract and have her start date. These in France have a lot of protections. And so a lot of companies will hesitate on making somebody full-time CDI. The other thing is that it depends on the level of the job and what the salary rate is and whether or not they're going to have to sponsor you. So if they have to sponsor you, there are 2 elements. There's the trying to prove they tried to hire a French person already and they weren't able to do so. And then there's also the element of whether or not your degree and salary is going to be high enough to justify visa. And then there's also the third element, which is if they're hiring a foreigner, in many cases, they're going to have to pay a tax to OFI in order to hire you. Not impossible to find a job in France, but very difficult to find a job with a company that is very willing and able to sponsor you. And a lot of companies, even if they're going to say that they are willing to hire you, they might not actually know what is involved in the administrative procedures with hiring you, and then not be able to follow through for various reasons. And it could be completely independent of their will to hire you. It could just be that administratively they realize it's not possible. I'll give you an example. So in certain industries, like schools that want to hire teachers or people that want to hire nannies or something like that, it's not that they don't want to hire you, it's that they have to prove that they tried to hire a French person first and that there were no suitable candidates, and your candidacy was the only one that they could reasonably accept. And so if it's for a relatively unskilled, not that nannies are unskilled, but if it's for a job that doesn't require a lot of on paper qualifications and there are other people who are qualified in France to do that job, then you're out of luck. And especially if it's something that's not well paid too. Tamara, so to get started, what is the very first procedure to start? It's to pick your visa type. And the second thing is to work with us. And the most important thing, first, you want to make sure that this is something feasible for you to do long-term, especially if you're going to be starting a business or doing some kind of work here. You want to be sure that that is going to be, you're going to be able to have a viable source of income, that you're going to, you understand what the tax situation is and things like that. But the very first thing you want to do is to decide the visa type and to start working on the visa application. And that's what we do. As an American, where and at what point in time do I start to apply for the visa? Being age 65, does it matter? I am on Social Security and an artist selling my art online. So either you're applying for a visitor visa, which is going to be a 1-year renewable visa that does not allow you to work. And in that case, you would not be able to sell your art. Or you can potentially apply for an artist visa, in which case we're putting together a business plan, we're identifying opportunities for selling your art, and we're doing financial projections. Both of those things are possible at any age. I had an artist client or somebody who applied for the artist visa who was like 84. If you're just applying for a visitor visa, then they're going to look at your cash assets. They're going to look at your social security statement to see your ongoing income that you can support yourself. And they're going to require you to get a temporary health insurance policy to cover you until you're able to get on the French system. If you're an artist, then they're going to look at your assets a little bit and your cash income, but they're also going to look at what what income you will potentially have from selling your art, and you're going to have to set that up as a business when you arrive. So the length of time that it'll take to put together the visa application for the artist visa is a little bit longer because we do have to prepare the business plan and identify art selling opportunities, but they're both completely doable. Désiré, since I was born in France, can I get a French passport? Only if you were born to a French parent, or if you were born to somebody who was born in France, who was born to somebody who was born in France. No, sorry. Double droit du sol. Double droit du sol. So in the US, we have single droit du sol, which is, or just basically, if you were born in the United States, you are a United States citizen, regardless of where your parents came from. That concept does not exist in France. In France, you have certain dispositifs, certain procedures for if a child is born in France to stateless parents, then yes, the child can have French nationality. If the child was born in France, lived in France up until being a teenager and requested French citizenship as a teenager, then they can very easily get French nationality. If you were born to a French parent, you can get French nationality. And if for whatever reason you weren't declared as a French child, you can reintegrate French nationality even as an adult. If you were born in France to somebody who wasn't French, there's something called double droit du sol, where if your mother was born in France and then you are also born in France, even though your mother wasn't French, you can get French nationality, or your father. So you have to have like you, but also your parent born in France for that to work. Called double droit du sol. Jessica, I have a long stay visitor visa, which I renew every year. I want to get something more permanent. How do I do this? You switch your status to something that allows you to work, and then you make money, and then you renew at the end of the first year of that status and get a multi-year card. There's not a good and easy way to get a multi-year card as a visitor. It's really at the discretion at the. If you've been here for more than 5 years, you can potentially request one, in which case I would heavily advise you to provide 5 years of your tax declarations and a document from your local tax office showing your taxes that you've declared for the past 5 years. If you have not been declaring your taxes, you should do that ASAP and go back. You can only go back 3 years. And then you should make sure you have an A2 level of French or higher and have a French language test. And then you can write a cover letter saying that you've been here for such and such length of time and you would like to request a multi-year card, and see if they will grant it to you. But it's not at all an obligation for somebody on a visitor visa. Annette, nice to see you again. Once I've obtained my visa and moved to France, are there restrictions on leaving France or returning to the US? For example, would I be able to travel to care for a sick family member and remain out of France for 2 to 4 weeks? That is absolutely no problem. The one thing I would say is, especially if you're going to do a profession libérale visa, you do have the OFI visit. So when you arrive, we validate your visa online through the NF website, Administration des étrangers en France. And once we do that, you will get in line to be to be invited. Convoqué is like an invitation, but make it mandatory, to OFI for a medical visit and a French language exam. So the medical visit is not a big deal. It's like they check you for tuberculosis. They ask you if you had all your childhood vaccines. It's really just like if people have severe medical needs or like didn't get certain vaccines as children because they were from countries where those things weren't widely available, then they're going to be invited to get those things. But typically, I can't really tell you when that's going to be. It depends on the department. It can be, we had one client where we validated the visa and we got the OFI convocation back like within hours. I was absolutely shocked. This was in Lyon recently. It broke a record as far as I was concerned. We have other people who are in like the Nice area. Takes them 6 months to invite you in. When you're on a profession libérale visa, you have that first day, and then you also have 3 additional days of, it's called like integration days, where you go and you learn about like being in France and what are your rights and your obligations, and just kind of an intro to life as a French resident. And I would highly advise you to not miss those days if you can. It is possible to reschedule them. We have rescheduled them for people who've had to miss for various reasons, especially if it's the case of a sick family member or something like that, emergency travel back to the US. So you absolutely can travel. It's not a big deal, but we just have to be mindful. And usually those invitations will come in by email too. Even if you're traveling, you can still get them. Lori, eventually we would like to retire to France in 2 to 3 years and open a gîte. Can you help with that? Absolutely. I would love to. We have a gîte client right now who just purchased a gîte or a set of gîtes that has already been operating as a business, and I'm really excited to work on that project. When you buy a gîte, you want to keep in mind that 23,000 euros per year is the magic number. So under 23,000 euros, it's not considered a business. Over 23,000, it's a business, and it's subject to like getting a profession libérale visa and having a business plan and all of that stuff. Your other question, Lori, I hope if you're on, you can give me some clarity. I don't see you. On your other question, which is about a study abroad program for your daughter. So I don't know exactly what that means. So if you can clarify your question, that would be great. Erin, what is the requirement to bring pets into the country, and do the requirements differ depending on the animal? I have a house cat, Maud the super cat. Maud the super cat just needs to be checked out by a vet. She needs to have, there's a certain time frame in which she has to have a rabies vaccine. I think it has to be more than 21 days before travel. And you either have to have them chipped with the chip that's European compatible, or you have to bring a chip reader. I have to say, I don't understand the logic behind bringing your own chip reader, because if your pet gets lost and they can't read or chip, it's not going to help that you, the pet owner, a chip reader somewhere. So I don't really understand. I think it would be better to just get the European compatible chip. You also have to get vet paperwork stamped by the USDA within a certain number of days of travel. Your pet has to travel within 5 days of you. And then there's also like a maximum. You can't bring more than 5 animals that you're importing for, I don't know, personal use. Like over 5, it's considered commercial. We have resources in Fast Track to France. So Fast Track to France is our program about getting you ready to move to France. All of our clients get access to it. It is sold separately well, but it does have all of the details and a video about moving your pets and have checklists. And we also have a pet relocation concierge service that we've worked with in the past with a woman named Jen Lusaigle, and she is on Facebook. She's been a guest on my podcast. I think she's around episode 20 something, 21 maybe. And she's super nice, and she takes great care of pets and helps people who want to move them over to France. So she's somebody who can be a resource as well. Also, Erin, I'm a US citizen and independent contractor. I work from home. I'm moving to France in 2023. What are the visa requirements to stay in France indefinitely for someone such as myself? So we want to do a profession libérale visa. We want to frame you as somebody who is self-employed, who will be having a business in France. We want to put together a business plan with some financial projections, make sure you know how to do your invoicing and your monthly declarations, all stuff that we help you with in our VIP concierge package. We do the complete business plan for you. And then when you get here, we register your activity. We make sure you understand invoicing. We help you to do your initial declarations. We also get you onto French healthcare, all of that. You'll initially get a visa for 1 year. And then at the end of the year, you can renew, and assuming that you're doing reasonably well and earning regular income, you should be able to get up to 4 years. We just had one of our clients renew in the fall, and she was able to get a 4-year card. So that was very exciting for her. What they're looking for in order to get a 4-year card is French minimum wage, which just went up this week. I got a nice little raise. SNEEK 2023 is 1,709 euros and 28 cents gross per month. So that's average of what they're looking for. They understand if it takes you a little bit of time to build up to that. They understand if like some months are 3,000 and some months are 500. Don't overthink it, but that's the target that we're looking for in the financial projections. And that's what you're going to need to get the 4-year card. After you've been in France for 5 years, you have a couple of options that are sort of done simultaneously. One is you want to request a 10-year card. And then number 2 is that you want to apply for naturalization as a French citizen, which you can do if you have been earning at least French minimum wage for 3 years. Depending on when you want to come in 2023, we might be ready to start. You can recommend other pet travel people as well. All right, Jackie, is it easier for my parents to retire in France if I am already a permanent resident? I guess. I mean, in the sense that they already have a place to live, they may have your financial support as well. There's a specific visa for ascendant, meaning like your ancestors or your elderly parents. So that's definitely a possibility. What we can do is have them say that they're going to be living with you, even if later they're going to find their own place to live. They have your address that they can use on at least on a temporary basis, which will make the process a whole lot easier. And they can potentially, if you're providing financial support or saying that they live with you, then the amount of financial resources that they'll need will also be lower. Jackie, question 2, do my parents still have to pay into Social Security in the US if they come to live here in France on a resident visa? So if they're not working, then they wouldn't be paying into Social Security, they would be getting Social Security. The Medicare Part A that comes out, I don't think you can opt out of. It's Medicare Part B that you can opt out of. If they're coming to France long-term, oh, Melody, I know who you are now. Yeah, so if they're paying into Medicare Part B, they can cancel it. But then the caveat is that if they ever go back to the US and want to enroll again, they'll pay a 10% penalty. They have to be pretty sure that they're committing to being here long-term, or it could potentially be expensive to re-enroll if they go back. I knew what you meant, Melody. All right, Erin, would somebody pursuing an auto entrepreneur or profession libérale visa be allowed to deduct business expenses? Also, could we list your business incubator course as a business expense? I feel like it's valid for the success of the business, but just curious if anybody has asked about that or considered it. So if you're a micro entrepreneur, then you cannot, unfortunately, deduct business expenses. I would think that my program would be a business expense, but I'm not registered as an organisme de formation. I have, however, purchased other people's courses from French and non-French businesses and deducted those. There's an option called frais réels, which means that you can deduct expenses. So you can register for something that's just profession libérale without the micro entrepreneur regime. I would want to be really careful that it's worth it because of 2 things. One is you need to get an accountant and have your accounts verified, which is an ongoing monthly expense. And depending on who you get and what they're going to charge, it's an expense that you don't necessarily have when you're profession libérale. And the other thing is sorry, I just lost my train of thought with the other thing to consider is your social charges are higher. So instead of paying a flat rate on the top of your income of 21% roughly, you're going to be paying 40%, but on the net. So after you deduct your expenses. In the Complete French Business Incubator, there is a financial projections sheet. And what we can do is we can compare the expenses. Like normally when I have people do the Complete French Business Incubator, especially if they're doing micro entrepreneur, we're not putting in a ton of expenses. We're just putting in the really basic things like that your business needs to get off the ground. So for example, a lot of times if I have people who are any kind of consultant and they're really just using their laptop and a video conferencing software and maybe, I don't know, an internet connection at home, like I really only put those things and maybe like an insurance policy. Or if I have somebody who's a photographer, like we put their Photoshop subscription in there and maybe we put the cost of insurance on their equipment. Like, but we're not going overboard with trying to figure out every single expense to get the business profit down to 0 because it doesn't make sense. And we don't want to show net 0 because then what's the point? When you are on frais réels, you do want to make sure that you have enough business expenses to get your profit down under a threshold such that paying 40% of taxes on the profit is more advantageous to you than paying 20% or 21% on the gross. We can do that calculation easily with the financial projections worksheets that are in Complete French Business Incubator. Okay, Rodney, we bought a house and are moving permanently and retired. What visa? So assuming that you were retired with US pensions and investment accounts and potentially 401ks, you're going to get a long-stay visitor visa. If you have ever worked in France and have a French pension, no matter how small, there is a different visa called a retirement visa, but that's only if you have a French pension. That's the distinction between retirement visa and visitor visa. Question 2, what services do you offer? We offer complete relocation packages where we're helping you with everything. We do the visa application, and once you arrive, we help you to validate the visa. We get you registered onto French healthcare. Once you're able to do that, we exchange your driver's license if you're from a state that enables you to exchange. And we're just kind of available for a lot of questions about the process. We have all of our clients get access to Fast Track to France, which is our 9-module course covering the 9 areas of transformation, which are the different areas of your life that are affected by the move. Everything from taxes, career, a lot of people who are retired are not necessarily worried about, but it can help you think about what activities or interests you might want to be involved in once you arrive. And things like housing and bringing your pets and all of that stuff. So you get, there's about 90 videos in that course, and you get access to all of them to help you understand like a little bit about what French administration is like, what life is like here, and the types of things that you're going to want to do to make sure that you're able to create the kind of life that you want to create when you get here. If you were interested in working with us, let me give you the links to our packages so you can check them out as we're talking. All right, so these are the retirement packages, and these are the entrepreneur packages. And then a little later, I'll give you guys the links to Fast Track and Complete French Business Incubator as well. One of the things, Kim and I just did a 90-minute planning session today for 2023 with Shelly Wild, who is our online business manager. And one of the things we talked about, both of the courses are going to get major upgrades this year. If you join, you will get access to the upgrades. There's no we're not going to kick you out. So the Complete French Business Incubator is still absolutely valid, although I did record the videos quite some time ago. There haven't been any significant changes to the process, and we of course make sure that you know all the updates, but we're gonna re-record those, I think, this year. Oh, sorry, I was just sending them to hosts and panelists, which is me. Okay, there's the 2 links. Okay, Leah, if we get a retirement visa, it has to be renewed yearly, correct? Did I read correctly that with retirement visas, you are not eligible for the 5 or 10-year permanent resident card? It is very difficult to get the 5 or 10-year resident card with a retirement visa because you are not paying taxes into the French system, especially with the way the US-France tax treaty is worded. France doesn't get to tax any of your US source income. So that's kind of the downside of that arrangement for you. Mark, I understand that retirement income taxed in the US is not subject to taxation in France, even though you have to report all of it on your French tax return. This is a great seg. However, after your initial 3 months of living in France, I'm told that you can apply to join the French healthcare system. I naturally assume this is not free, even to retirees, and that you would therefore have to make some kind of regular payment in France as you would for Social Security in the US. So how is this calculated? Okay, 2 different things. Income taxes on your income are going to be basically 0 in France because, as I said, all of your US source income, your pensions, your interest, your dividends, your rental income, anything, your capital gains, anything that is US source in those categories and is passive income is going to be taxed in the US. In France, you're going to report it every year. You're going to get a tax credit on your French taxes, which is equal to the amount that the French tax would have been. So let's say I'm making up numbers. These are not real percentages or anything. If you have 100,000 euros in income and the tax is 10,000 euros, again, not real numbers, your actual tax amount will be higher. Your tax credit in France would be 10,000 euros. So you don't pay French taxes because your tax credit cancels out what the tax would have been. However, PUMA is protection universelle maladie. It's universal healthcare. You do not opt out of PUMA. You may opt out by not enrolling in the French healthcare system. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get out of paying for the PUMA premium. I want to be very clear on that point, because there are a lot of people who've been surprised by bills and think that they don't have to pay them because they never registered for the French healthcare system. PUMA, universal healthcare, means that everybody pays. PUMA is 6.5% of your income that is above a certain number of times the plafond minimum de sécurité sociale, the PASS. Plafond annuel, so the PASS. However, US pensions and retirement account distributions are not counted in that. So if you're getting distributions from an IRA or 401k or any of those things, those are not going to be included in the PUMA calculation. Then it's about 11,000-ish euros that don't get, hold on, let me tell you exactly what it is, because I just looked up what French minimum wage is. So 1353 times 12, right? Times 12 times, I think, 70%. Don't quote me on this because I'm not entirely sure, but it's like 11,365 euros, roughly. Anything under that is also not going to be subject to PUMA cotisation. So if you only have retirement pensions and you only have other income, like let's say you have an investment account that is not a retirement account, so just a regular investment account of some kind, and you have interest and dividends and capital gains and things like that, anything over 11,300 whatever is going to be subject to the 6.5% PUMA tax. Does that make sense? What do you mean? Is that gross or net? So for PUMA, things like interest and dividends are going to be gross. The net amount and the gross amount are not going to be different. For things like rental income, you're looking at net. For things like capital gains, it's the sale price minus the purchase price is the capital gain amount. So that would be net. And don't forget, for some things too, the French rules on capital gains are slightly different. So for example, in France, there's no capital gain on selling your principal residence, as long as you sell it within a certain amount of time of moving out. Mark, for your UK pension, you're going to have to look at the tax treaty between the UK and France, which I don't know as well as I know the US treaty, but I think that the UK does not have as favorable of a treaty. So in that case, you would be paying your tax on the UK treaty to France and not to the UK and not to the US. So your UK pension would probably be taxed in France, and then you get a foreign tax credit for it on your US taxes. That's more of an accountant question, just so we're clear. Like, okay, Maha, the organization I will be working at in Paris is writing me a note verbal for a work authorization. It is a contract for 6 months with the possibility to be extended. I'm not sure writing you a note verbal is going to be considered a work contract. It is a contract for 6 months with the possibility to be extended. I was looking at the France Visas Wizard, and based on that, it seems like my category falls under recruitment of workers, and the supporting documents are work authorization, contract, and diploma. Is that really it, or should I also be submitting my proof of accommodation, travel, health insurance, etc.? You won't need to provide travel health insurance because technically you'll be covered under the French system from when you start work. Your diploma will play into whether or not they can even hire you for that job. Travel, health insurance you're not going to need. They don't really, proof of accommodation you'll definitely have to put an address on the visa form. You don't say anything about what the salary and things are. You do. I don't think you're in here. Oh, you are. Can you clarify, Maha, like what's the salary level? Like, is it a CDD with the option to potentially be extended? What level of education are they requiring? Because I'm very concerned that, it's a consultancy contract and the salary is per deliverables. So that's a profession libérale visa. That's not a work visa. That's not a salaried visa. If you have a 6-month contract to be a contractor in a French company, then you need a profession libérale visa, because a salary A salary in France is not based on deliverables. If it's an international organization, then there's a special, they may be able to give you a special carte de séjour through the ministère des Affaires étrangères, which has nothing to do with anything that's on France visas. It's a special permit. We're actually working for clients right now that have those who work for the OECD, and they're retiring, so they're switching their status. But the France visas is not going to. Yeah, I mean, I don't know as much about those visa types, honestly, because they're not very common, and they're not ones that anybody can apply for. Like, they need the organization to apply for that. So I'm not really super competent to answer those questions. All right, let me pull up. Those were the questions that were pre-submitted. So let me pull up the questions. Yeah, the organization has to do it, and it's not going to be through the. It's going to be a different category on the France Visas website, because I think there is actually a one for, now that I'm thinking about it, there is a category for like diplomacy missions, basically, but I've never done one of those, so I really can't advise you. Sorry. All right, let me open up the Q&A box. So those were all of the questions that were pre-submitted. So now I'll go to the questions that were submitted from the Q&A box. Okay, I am an immigrant already living in France for several years, and I'm on my second long-term 4-year visa, passport talent status. I have a great and stable CDI job. I engaged to a German woman who lives in Germany. Will it be hard for her to relocate to France? Should we get married before or after she moves? And how can she enter the French system and get a social security in order to be able to legally work in France? If she's German, she's a European citizen, so she can move to France whenever she wants and get a job whenever and wherever she wants. I will say that since you've been here for more than 4 years, or more than 5 years, it sounds like, you can apply for French naturalization. It might be easier to do that before being married, or at least without it being related to the marriage. Sometimes when you are married, they want to know like why your spouse isn't also submitting a naturalization request, which it wouldn't make sense for her to, because she's a European citizen already. In order to enter the French system, so she'll either have to get a job or provide an S1 refusal from the German healthcare system. All right. Do you also help people with applying for French citizenship? I assume you're the same person. Yes, we can do that. We can do that. If you have been here and paying taxes on French minimum wage, earning at least 20,000 roughly euros per year, you can apply for French citizenship. Are student visas always issued for 12 months, or is it possible they are issued for 6 months depending on the program length? Yes, they can be issued for less than 1 year. If you want a student visa for more than 12 months, or for 12 months that you can renew, you want to make sure that you're in an accredited program in a university that awards degrees. If you're in French classes, you want it to be an advanced level, and you want it to be more than 20 hours per week, and you want it to be for an entire academic year. 9 to 10 months, no more than 2 weeks off for vacation during the year. Like during the summer, you can take a longer vacation, but generally it's a full academic year of classes, 20 hours per week or more. Erin V. I have a French driver's license that is valid until 2032 from previously living in France. I'm assuming that even though I've been stateside for 3 years, I'm able to keep using my French license once I'm back. Yes, surely it's still valid even though I don't currently live in France. Yep. Is Social Security subject to PUMA? I already answered that. No. And let me just make the caveat too, is when I say Social Security, I mean retirement Social Security payments for people who contributed from working and who are now receiving their retirement pension. There are other types of Social Security payments like disability, like benefits from, I don't know, deceased family members, things like that. Those are not subject to French taxes at all. Like if you're getting a French US disability payment, those are not even reportable in France. Erin M. Did you say there is no capital gains in France on a primary residence? I'm not downloading that right now. I'm working. For sure, not within the first year. Oh, for an apartment you buy in France. If my brother loaned me the money to buy an apartment in Paris, would there be capital gains if it was sold, say, 10 to 15 years down the road? No, there would not. I would say if you're going to be borrowing money from a family member, write down have a contract, write down a loan repayment schedule and like a very nominal amount of interest or something, just because like if it were gifted to you, then that would be subject to gift tax. And honestly, I don't know the fine points of gifting between like in the US and France tax treaty. So you just want to make sure that if part of the loan, if the loan were forgiven, or if one of you dies unexpectedly, God forbid, you know, that the terms of the loan are clear so that there wouldn't be inheritance or tax issues. Just copying these questions into, I am debating over renewing my long stay visa for visitors for the third time and waiting 5 years to apply for the 10-year card, or switching to passeport talent or profession libérale to be able to work as an actor. Right now I have my feature and short films that I am making independently and intend to find a producer for them. But other than that, I don't have a way to show I have been contracted to earn a certain amount of money for any artistic services. My income comes from the US, from my Airbnb and rentals. In this case, what could be the best course of action? Should I still apply for the passeport talent, profession artistique, or the profession libérale before my current titre de séjour expires on March 26th? I mean, if you want to have a hope of your change of status getting accepted, you're going to need to have some kind of plan for earning income in France. So I don't know. That's one of the things that we work on with our clients. It's one of the things that we really highly recommend figuring out before starting the process. I mean, if you switch to a profession artistique or an actor job would be intermittent du spectacle, so it would be by default profession artistique rather than profession libérale. But I mean, you need to be able to have a way to make money and be able to show that you're making money for a year so that you can renew with that status. And then of course, being able to show that you're earning money for multiple years so that then you can get a residency card, a long-term residency card, and apply for naturalization if that's what you want. If you don't have a plan to make money already, then you're going to have to come up with one as part of putting together your business plan and your project plan. For an EU citizen, she can just move and apply for Social Security even before finding a job. No, she's an entrepreneur, how to declare her work and start paying taxes. So she'll need to register her self-employment activity here, whether that's registering her company or registering as like a micro entrepreneur. If she registers for micro entrepreneur, then that gets her into the Social Security system relatively quickly. Or if she registers a company and then is going to pay herself a salary from the company, that also gets her into the system very fast. And she won't have to wait. She won't have to wait 3 months. She won't have to get a refusal form from German Social Security, anything like that. That is in the range of things that we can help with. So you can also reach out to us and get a quote from us for helping her get that up here. Even though she's an EU citizen and she doesn't need the carte de séjour, we can help her register for her self-employment activity, get her onto the French healthcare system, and also potentially help your citizenship as well. Why don't you, I'll put my email in the chat, Anon, so that you can email and we can discuss your situation, because I think yours sounds like like we would put together a package for you. It wouldn't be one of our standard packages. This would be something we would do on a quote basis. All right, let me scroll back up through the chat box because I answered all the questions in the Q&A. David, let me look and see. I answered all the questions that were put in my document, but let me open up okay, pre-submitted, to clarify. Pre-submitted means submitted before. So I logged in at 6:58 p.m. to see the questions, and I had my virtual assistant prepare all of the questions into a Word doc before this call. She finished at 6, so there was an hour. So I logged in to see if there were any questions that hadn't been added. Those were the questions that were pre-submitted. There are more questions now that have been submitted, but not pre-submitted. All right, David, visa, work type visa. I have a job in Paris and I have a signer for my lease, but where's the best place to find apartments when I get there next month? So you're going to look at, which is PAP. You can look at Sudoge. These are all websites. You can look at Coin. Those are the 3 main websites to go to. You can also just go to the neighborhoods that you want to live in and walk around and look at the real estate agencies and what they have in their windows and go in and talk to people if you're already here. Usually what we recommend is that people apply for, get an Airbnb or something for the first 4 to 6 weeks, and then as much as possible, spend that time hitting the ground running and finding places on site. Okay, Vivian, profession libérale or artistique, can I apply a self-published author intending to sell books on Amazon but still in the writing stages? What about Airbnb owner? So Airbnb is not profession libérale, especially if it's a property in the US, because that income would only be taxable in the US. Writing and self-publishing would be profession libérale. Filmmaker, like, we would need to work on a business plan to develop how these are going to become income sources. I think both of those things are doable. I think the other stuff that you said is acting and writing. All of those things have the potential to develop income, but we need to make sure that that is abundantly clear in the documents that you're submitting to the prefecture. And you will have to submit change of status documents in French, just so you're aware. Vivian, what prefecture are you in? What, do you live in Paris? Okay. I have been, and Kim, this is her first major challenge that she's confronted as a full-time employee of your transformation. We have both been navigating the challenge of figuring out how they changed the change of status procedure at the Paris prefecture. I have 4 clients who need to have their status changed, 2 from visitor to profession libérale, 2 from ministre des Affaires étrangères, 2 visitor because they're retiring. It used to be that you could call the prefecture and make an appointment. Kim has called 11,700 times. She can't get through because they have technical issues that haven't been resolved since May. She got through a couple times. They hung up on her before she could even get the question out, or they've told her it's online when it is very clearly not online. We think we finally found a solution today, but this situation is to the point where, like, it is entirely feasible that we would have to sue the Préfecture de Paris in the administrative tribunal, which is not really something that I want to do. That's not how I want to start 2023. But for change of status, you want to sign up in advance. All right, let me go through the questions in the chat. Okay, Jennifer, if you come to France on a passeport talent visa and then retire from that position with a French pension, what sort of visa do you have to apply for? It is the same as a retirement visa. Are the requirements the same? Yes, so they would look then at your resources, at your financial resources and the amount of your French pension. But if you're here with a passeport talent for an extended period of time, you're very likely, for more than 5 years, you're very likely going to get a 10-year residency card that is then renewed basically automatically, and you'll have the opportunity to apply for naturalization during that time as well. And you shouldn't have a problem getting it because the salary for talent passport is high enough that if you've lived here for more than 5 years and paid taxes for more than 3, then it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, just so you know, I will be editing this, and I edit out my ums and my pauses and all of that. I put it on YouTube. I do a transcript. So if you miss things or need to rewatch them, you can watch it on there with it. There'll be closed captioning and subtitles and everything. I can't go back and forth between reading the questions and also typing things into the chat extensively and all of that. So, all right, Deborah. How long are we able to wait to have the personal consultations after buying a package? If I buy a package and work through the courses on my own and I'm waiting for my husband's retirement date to be determined, it will be 1 to 3 years. I'd like to take the course and get prepared, but it could be 6 months to 2.5 more years before we'd be ready to go. Okay, so that's a fair question. And it depends on the course too. For Fast Track to France, there's normally 1 or 2 calls included. Same thing for Complete French Business Incubator. If we're sort of in contact and you're keeping me posted, normally I will extend the validity of the calls. Fast Track to France is a lot of stuff that you can do to prepare that doesn't necessarily have to be right before you are moving. Some of it has to be a little bit closer to your move date. Things like the pet documentation obviously is in advance, but you maintain access to the programs as long as they exist, which as long as this company exists and we're doing quite well, you will maintain access to them. What I might recommend is getting the package that includes one call with me to do that one call now and then upgrading to another call later down the line. For our clients who sign up for a course or a paid call and then upgrade to a package within normally 3 to 6 months, I will apply the credit for the course as a discount to the cost of the package since it's included. But if it's 3 years, I'm not going to apply the credit that far out. For Puma, is income self-reported or do we have to send in our US tax returns? At some point, they can very well ask you for your US tax declarations. They won't always, but they could. So don't commit tax fraud, basically. Vivian, is setting up a business bank account for the €30,000 investment before submitting the visa application for the passport talent entrepreneur something your services help with? How difficult are they? Yes, this is something that we do. So we manage the passport talent entrepreneur situation from the start of it. So there's a couple of different steps and it's more complicated than the profession libérale. There's the business plan and the financial projections. There's figuring out what type of company you want to set up. There's writing answers to a bunch of questions from the Ministry of the Economy. There's helping you get set up with an accountant and making the €30,000 deposit. Normally we have the accountant write the actual statutes for the business, but if for whatever reason they don't get it done in time and we want to move on to actually filing the application, we can draft statutes and then we use those for all the admin. And then later on, you're going to file ones that are written by the accountant, just to speed things along a little bit. We guide you through that whole process. Once we get you set up with all of those things, we submit an approval request through the Ministry of the Economy. They issue a certificate to say that they believe that your business idea is viable. And then once you have that certificate, you can apply for the visa or the change of status. We manage it from start to end. We don't normally at this stage, we're not registering businesses for people. We prefer to let the accountants handle that. They're able to provide more specialized expertise in how you should be set up and what things you need to consider for your business. You need an accountant anyway for ongoing accounting declarations, TVA declarations, bookkeeping, like monitoring your bookkeeping. It's a requirement for a company to have that stuff. So we prefer to get you set up with somebody right from the get-go who will then register the business and follow the accounting. But that's absolutely something that we do. All right. To apply for the visa, do we need to show accommodations, say Airbnb for 4 to 6 weeks? 4 to 6 weeks is fine, assuming that you have the money to pay for a more long-term accommodation. I don't recommend signing a long lease before you actually get here to visit a place. And with the long stay visitor visa, can I apply for the 10-year card? No. I answered that question earlier. It's not a good strategy for getting a 10-year card. It's very unlikely. Erin, on a profession libérale visa, is it okay to have a set amount of hours per week for each client? That's fine. That's what I did for Kim and Lauren, who very sadly has moved on. She was great also and has a new project now. But that's what I had for Kim and Lauren when they were both working for me. They were each part-time. They had a certain number of hours, which varied as a function of how much work I had for them. They set their own hours. They did certain things, like they had certain things that they kind of managed and took on, like the things that they were most competent in. But there were certain ways that I wanted to make really clear that it was a contractor relationship and not an employer-employee relationship. I mean, having more than one client, having a retainer, being hired for a very certain set of skills is another way. How far back are US tax returns needed? Lots of people do not keep tons of years. I mean, you need to keep as many years as you need to keep for your records. I would say you want, I don't know how far they go back in the US, 10 years maybe. So I would say you want to keep 10 years, but they can be digital. The scenarios in which you might need your US tax declarations. If you have capital gains, if you have property that you sell, especially rental property, and if you if you purchase stuff that then you sell and you need to prove a gain or a loss, things like that. If you borrow money and then you are paying it like for a mortgage and then you're paying it back like a loan, for regular 9 to 5 USA jobs, however long the IRS tells you to keep them. Like France is not going to, especially like if you're living in France in 2023 and you moved here, or if you move here in 2023, France is never going to come back and ask you for your 1998 US tax return. What they could ask you for is like if you were to transfer a huge chunk of money from the US to France to buy a property, they would want to know where it came from, but they're not going to just go digging around your tax declarations for no good reason. Vivian, how far in advance should I plan on working with you for a change of status to either from visitor to passeport talent or profession artistique? So if you're doing, I would say you want to start at least 3 months in advance. I think you said your current visa expires March 26th. So we kind of need to start now. If you want to do it this year, you need to start March 26th. You need to start now for that date, because it takes a good couple of weeks to have your calls with me, to put together the business plan, to develop. It sounds like we need to do a little bit of work on how are you actually going to make money in France, and what documents do we have to show that. And then, like I said, it's a little bit tricky right now. If you're doing profession artistique, that might be the better bet, because that can actually be submitted online. And profession libérale, the prefecture in Paris has completely forgotten that this visa type has existed. They have no idea, and it's not anywhere, and nobody knows anything about it. So they can do renewals, they just can't do a change of status, to clarify. So Vivian, I would suggest, if we're going to talk about working together, like let's do that ASAP. And I'm going to put the link to request a call with me. So if you are potentially ready to work with us, then this is a link where you can request a call with me to talk about working together. This is to begin the process to see if we're the right fit. It's not a free 30-minute consulting session. If you would like consulting, you can either come to these sessions. This one ran for almost 90 minutes, or you can come and do a paid call with me for 1 hour, and I can answer all of your questions personally. The free call is really like when you're at the point of wanting to get started, we can just talk and make sure like your plan is viable, make sure we're a good fit, make sure like we're going to get along, because we work with people for a really long time. Like I have clients like we're just finishing working with them now, and they started to move here before COVID. We kind of need to like each other a little bit, at least. Erin, yes, documents for the profession libérale visa can be submitted in English in the US. If you're doing it in France, it needs to be submitted in French. But if you're applying for a visa in the US, it can be submitted in English. So if you are potentially interested in working with us, we would love to have a chat and see what the options are. I can talk you through the package that I think will be the best fit. We have some clients who start 3 to 4 months in advance, especially with retirement. You don't need to start very long in advance. We have business clients who start 3 to 6 months in advance. We also have people who start a year or more in advance, who want to have access to our programs, who want to have access to our resources, who want to be able to email us a question occasionally. And so they do sign up with us in advance, and just make sure that we know your intended departure date, so that once we get closer to your departure, we're going to be able to have in our calendar when we need to do your visa appointment, that stuff. We're not necessarily like, we'll respond to an email, a question here and there. Obviously, there's not a lot that happens more than 3 months in advance, unless we're working on your business plan and we have calls and we're setting up your company and doing that kind of thing. Yes, Vivian, I can send you that quote as well. If you, other Vivian, sorry, now there's 2 Vivians. Vivian that I already talked to, yes, I will send you a quote. Vivian, other Vivian, if you renew your visitor visa in March, then you can submit your change of status request online at any time. So it's whenever we do that with people too. We had a client who renewed we started working together on her passport talent entrepreneur, but her visitor visa was coming up for renewal. So she renewed her visitor visa, or we've helped people with it in the past as well. The renewal goes through, and then when you get the new carte de séjour, then we can go back in at any time whenever we're ready and submit the change of status application online. All right. So that's all I have for today. If you are looking at working with us, I will be very happy to have a chat with you. And please do go and listen. I'm going to give you a link to my podcast episode with Kim. Her sister-in-law listened to her episode and now is the president of her fan club. I had all of her friends commenting on her episode. And I also think, I'm used to doing these types of things. I'm used to talking about myself and my own experience moving to France. And I was really glad that she was willing to share her experience as well, because I told her it was not at all a job requirement to participate in that and sharing her story, but I'm really glad she did. So it was lovely to see all of you. The next Q&A is going to be, the next Q&A is going to be on Monday, February 6th, same time, same place. And I will look forward to seeing you there. And pre-submit your questions means that they are submitted before 7 p.m. If they are not submitted before 7 p.m., they need to be submitted in the Q&A box here, because otherwise I'm not going to have them in front of me. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening or day. If you're in California, you are just getting started. Take care. Bye.